Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In the last video you saw how we did our controlled burn as the first step for our 2025 habitat management plan. In today's video we're going to go down into the burn, check it out, see if it accomplished what we were hoping for. Hope you enjoy. Let's go. Well, we're down here in the pines. As you can see, well, you may not be able to see, but this is the pines. This is the same spot where I hunted most of deer season. My tree stand was right here behind the camera. So what you're seeing here is the area that I had lots of footage of deer on or in during deer season. So this right here, I'm actually sitting in the trail that I had numerous does and bucks and fawns come through right here, and they walked 10 yards, 15 yards under my stand. Down here below me, I've got lots of video footage of just groups of deer coming through down there 20 yards downhill. You can see here, I mean, everything is burned up. Obviously, the fire did a great job, you know, but look at this. This is what's pretty wicked. There is all unburned damp. That's wet. That's damp pine needles. So even though the fire got really hot, and it's up on these pine trees around me. Golly, that pine tree right there, I'm looking into the sun. These trees right here are burned probably 10, 12 feet in the up. Man, so this was a good sized fire, but as you can see, there's still a lot of fuel on the floor in here where it was just damp. I mean, that is wet to the touch when you touch that. So that's why that didn't burn. But the catch is, you look around me here, this whole area, all these trees had honeysuckle and all kinds of dead, not live, not like living honeysuckle with green leaves that the deer would browse on. It was this really weird, really thick, it's old honeysuckle, I guess, is more what I want to call it. Is old vines that were the size of your thumb or larger, and they had like this paper skin on the outside of them. And all these trees were just hanging full with it. And it's gone. It is gone. There is none. I'm looking around here, and there is none left. So this fire did a great job of clearing all that out. I was texting with a buddy of mine, Danny, from T&D Outdoors. He and I met on YouTube, and we've become good friends, and we text all the time. And he was texting me for updates on the burn yesterday, and he had a great idea. He suggested that I put a trail camera in here, and I put it on time-lapse mode, and it take a picture at regular intervals, and then when it's all said and done, stitch it together to get a time-lapse of how everything in here changes, and watch as everything begins to green up as we get rain this weekend. And now I'm getting smoked out from one of the remaining stumps. There's a stump down here burning, and there's 2 logs up here above me that are still burning. But so I'm getting smoked out pretty good here right now. But I think that's a great idea. I've got to go check my cameras and see if they'll actually do that. I don't know if I have any cameras that'll do time-lapse function. I've never used them that way, so it's just something I'm going to have to look into. But I'll give you some views here. I'll pan around down in here and let you see what it looks like. But this is absolutely incredible to see what it did. So one of the hot spots that's still going is right up there. That actually has burned. I mean, obviously it's burned since yesterday, burned all night and burned all day, but that had some pretty sizable flames coming off of it this morning when I came out to do my walk around and check everything out. I've been kind of watching it just to make sure. It's actually stopped burning up the log now, and it seems to be just focused on burning in that one location. As you see, though, everything around it, I'll zoom out here. As you can see, everything around it is already burned. Everything above it is burned. So there's virtually no risk of this one going anywhere. The wind is not supposed to pick up today, so not a whole lot of risk there. If I were to need to do something, I could just bring a 5-gallon bucket of water down here, since it's not far behind my house, and I could just pour it on it to try to quench it and get it to go out a little bit faster. But like I said, if it's going to burn up and eliminate that log from laying there for the most part, or help it to rot and break down even faster, then I'm all for letting it happen. All right, so now I was just down here 20 yards below where I'm at right now. This is the field just above where that tree stand was at, that I got some video footage of deer coming through here. As you can see, this is kind of an inside curve, inside corner on the edge of the pine thicket. and it's isolated. There's a stand of timber up above me. You got this little green field here, and then you got the pine thicket below me. The deer use in here pretty heavily. Well, what I want to do now, you can see where they burned through here. Behind is a little patch of green that did not burn. It was vegetation that came on really fast this spring, and it's mostly green, and so it just didn't burn. You know, you need a lot of dead fuel matter to cause the burn to happen the way you want it to. Well, you can see back here behind me, this whole area here burned off fantastically well. And what I want to do now is I want to come through. We got rain coming in 2 days. I want to come in and I want to overseed this area with preferential seed, the seed that I want to come up in here to provide the proper nutrients for the deer. So, you know, ideally I want it to be a perennial. So I want to put a lot of clover and stuff like that in here. And my objective is if I can get a thick enough stand of the clover in here, then it can help. Clover's naturally good at out-competing other vegetation. So if I can get the clover stand in here first, then hopefully it can withstand any seeds that are blown in from the surrounding area, and hopefully I can have an established clover plot right here in this burn area. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that the weeds that were growing in here, that the fire got hot enough to rupture the seeds that may have dropped here over the past several months and whenever I bush hogged it. But only time will tell. As you see, this really burned relatively well. I had bush hogged all of this, so all the fuel was down on the ground in here. So the fire never got high. It all stayed down close to the ground and stayed concentrated. So we will just see how that works. I may have done it wrong. It may have been better to leave the grass high, but I didn't know for sure they were going to come burn, and I couldn't risk leaving it high all winter long if they weren't going to come if state wasn't going to come burn this spring. Let's go check out some more stuff down here in the pines and in the surrounding area and just kind of give you a better feel for what this looks like. Here's another example of what happened with the fire yesterday. So this was a little thicket area. This started off as an area where we were letting the blackberries grow up, and I was maintaining them in rows so that we could come in and pick the blackberries out of here. Well, over time, I let it get out of hand, and it got to be where it was so thick that I couldn't really even get the bush hog and the tractor through it because it would bog the bush hog down. Look at what's left. There's nothing. There's just a few blackberry canes left in there. There's some vines that have been burned up, and then you've got several sumac trees. What do I have here? I've got winged sumac primarily on the farm here. Those are some winged sumac trees still standing in there. I'm going to come in, I'm going to take the tractor, I'm going to bush hog all this down. I'm going to saw the trees that have grown up in there down and try to get this area back under control, because it is just right behind my house here, and there is some potential uses for this area if I can get it back under control the way I want to. So just to give you an example of what was here before the burn. Look at this tangle of all kinds, mostly honeysuckle, blackberry, multiflora rose. There's some multiflora coming on. There's some honeysuckle, mainly honeysuckle. And you see all the dry vines down in there. That's what was here. And then you transition right over here. And now you see the burn area where all of that has been burned up. This is actually going to make maintaining this hillside so much easier. I'm going to be able to mow this more easily. Down here, I'm looking forward to seeing the grasses that come on and the abundant food source supply that we have here for the birds and the turkeys and the deer and all the other wildlife. Speaking of turkeys, while I was walking down in the pines a while ago in between video clips, I had turkeys gobbling right over here beside me. I haven't had turkeys up here. I haven't had any gobblers up here in 2 or 3 years. 24 hours after the burn, and they are already coming into the area and they're ready to start scratching around and checking it out. So this whole section here used to be just a tangled mess like that. Now the deer did use it a little bit. They would bed on the edge of it, right up here on the upper edge, but they would not go down in the middle for the most part. They stayed out of the center. It was so thick with blackberries, multiflora, honeysuckle, and then just, you know, small cedar trees and pine trees popping up. Now that this is burned off and the fresh vegetation is going to start coming up, it's going to expose a lot new, fresh, tender green, edible forage for the deer. Not only that, I now have to figure out, am I going to come in and am I going to bush hog all this down now, or am I going to let these blackberries do their thing and ripen and provide a food source this summer for deer and turkeys, as well as for our farm business that we have where we sell blackberries from the farm, wild blackberries? Am I going to do that? Or am I going to go ahead and come in and bush hog it all off to try to get everything cleaned up and maximize, you know, the green? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. That's where the unknown is at as far as what I'm going to do. While I was walking in between taking video clips a while ago, I had a turkey gobbling up here beside me. I have not had a gobbler up here in a couple years, and there was one up here on the ridgetop just a while ago gobbling beside me. Hasn't been 24 hours yet, and the turkeys are already starting to come into the area to start checking it out. That's pretty incredible. Well, it has been 3 days now since we did the burn. I'm down here checking things out. I've been down here a lot over the past few days. I've been coming down here multiple times a day checking on things. The first 24 hours after the burn, I had a whole bunch of stumps and snags and logs still in here burning. First 48 hours, after 48 hours came down here, I still had 5 or 6 snags and stumps that were still smoldering, and I still had one large dead pine log up here that was still actually actively burning with flames coming off all around it. That was 48 hours later. Yesterday at hour 72, I came down here to check things out. All the stumps and snags had burned out. This one large log up here that's probably 18-20 inches diameter, it was actually extending out into the field. The wind changed direction on me. It was blowing toward the edge of the fire line and into an area that had not been burned yet. So I went ahead, and because the winds were gusting at 12, 15 miles per hour at times yesterday, coming out of the south primarily, I came out and I stretched my water hose, about 300 feet of water hose down here, and I went ahead and put that tree out. Even though I would prefer it to have burned up, I went ahead and put it out. As I was making my way down here to shoot this video, a whole group of deer came through. As I was setting my tripod up, I had a turkey gobbling right over here. Not on me, but I think it was over on my uncle who had his property burned. Wildlife is already coming in. I've got cameras out in here so I can try to monitor what's going on. So I'm at the point right now where I am in the monitoring phase. I'm in the assessment phase of my habitat management, property management activities here right now following the burn. I'm trying to cover as much area in here as I can. I'm trying to figure out what trees are, I'm going to watch for budding activity. I'm going to figure out what trees survived the burn. I really think that it didn't get hot enough to kill a lot of the trees, thankfully. That wasn't my objective. My objective was to burn up the fuel load, get a lot of these honeysuckle vines and all these multiflora rows and all the, we call them possum grapes. They're all over the place in here. My plan was to burn those up, to open up the canopy a little bit more, free up some of the burden on the trees, so that way the ground can begin, the pioneer species can begin to start germinating and coming back, which is going to provide a lot of browse for the wildlife in the area. So I'm kind of in that assessment phase. Next, after that, I'm going to be in the restoration phase. So I'm going to be planning and trying to come up with a strategy, and I'm going to bring you along with me on what I'm going to do next. How am I going to take this from, it's in my opinion, it's already better than it was before, even though it's void of any browse in here right now, because I've gotten rid of all the stuff that was choking everything out in here. Now I've got to try to nourish what is going to start coming back, to try to increase the browse load capacity in here. I'm also going to try to maintain areas that I'm going to leave for, I'm going to kind of call it bedding areas, or I don't really like the term sanctuary area because I don't have enough property to have a sanctuary area, but I'm going to try to leave areas that are more suitable for bedding for deer. So that's kind of the next phase that I'm going to be rolling into. So as far as this first phase of my habitat management as part of the controlled burn and the first few days following the burn, that's probably going to be it for this video. but I'm going to have several other videos in this series coming up going on with what am I going to do in the field? How am I going to manage the areas in the field that was burned? What about areas that weren't burned? What am I going to do to improve the holding capacity of that, or the forage capacity in that area? So that's going to be in the next videos coming up, but this is going to be it for the burn video. I hope you learned something. I've had several people already message me from just my pictures on social media asking for contact information for Tennessee Department of Forestry. They want to reach out and have this done on their place. You know, a lot of people some people saw the pictures and said, that's so bleak, it's so devastating, it's so sad. Okay, I can see where some people would think that. I see potential. I see the potential here for me to improve my wildlife population and health because of this. In addition to the safety benefits of reducing the risk of wildfires here on the farm because of consuming all this fuel load that was on the floor in here, that's another benefit, but I'm talking about it mainly for the habitat wildlife aspect. So keep following us along. We're going to have several more videos in this series as we go through the rest of the spring and into the early summer. Thank you so much for coming along with us. If you have any questions, drop them below. If you haven't yet, I would really appreciate if you'd go in and you'd hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you so much. Look forward to sharing much more of this series with you. Have a blessed day.